Hi everyone and welcome back. Another unguttable lock here that's been grubbed. Whoops. It's a 4-pinner, Brinks 40mm. Where's the key? Here's the key. Kind of flat bitting. But let's pick it and see what's inside. Key works. Top keyway tension, but I imagine bottom of the keyway would work just as well. I'm using an F31 multi-pick hook. There's the profile. I really like this profile. This is 0.5 mil. Okay, one is binding. What is it binding? One is springy. 2 is binding. 3 is springy. 4 is binding. 3 is springy. 2 is binding. And 1 is binding. I think I slipped off there. No. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Got it open. Let's have a look at what's inside. Didn't get any counter rotation there. So I'll put those down here. Just get all the grubs out right off the bat. Steel springs that are fairly, oh, they're not very strong springs. Okay, what's in one? Standard driver, standard key pin. Two is standards. Standards in 3. Standards in 4. So the feedback in this lock is kind of, kind of subtle. It's not, I mean, there's no counter rotation, you don't get anything like that. So you really have to pay attention to the tactile feedback. When the pin's set, you do hear a bit of a click, but a click could be anything. It could be the pick sliding off the pin, it could be sliding off the wording, it could be a pin setting, it could be a pin dropping. So sounds aren't really that reliable. What you really want to focus on is the jiggle test and the feedback you get through the tensioner and the pick too. Maybe I'll pin this back up and see if we can get more clear feedback on video. I don't remember. I was hoping that I could, share some wisdom or some advice for beginning pickers who tend to use bottom of keyway. And I think really that's because that's what's included in most beginner sets. You get BOK wrenches instead of TOK. I imagine imagine they're cheaper to produce and maximize profit for the company. But just because that's what you find in the kits doesn't mean that that's what you need to start with. Eventually, I think everyone transitions to the top of keyway tensioning. And admittedly, it can be a bit of a difficult transition. I know when I was switching to TOK, I was picking in hand exclusively. I didn't even have a vise at that point. And it's an awkward hand position, and just trying to keep the tensioner from slipping out of the keyway is it's fatiguing over time. And let's face it, like, you know, for beginners, I don't know about any of you, but for me, my picking sessions were long, particularly, you know, for any one lock. So a comfortable position is always, well, advantageous and preferred too. You know, I don't blame anybody for wanting to use TOK because it's more comfortable. But the challenges of, did I say TOK? Yeah, I don't blame anyone for wanting to use BOK because it's more comfortable. But the advantages of using TOK, I think, far outweigh any small inconveniences. And really, you get used to it. You know, you put in the time, and you'll get used to it pretty quick. These ergo tensioners make life a little easier. I mean, I used to hold the lock like this and tension like that, but these smaller padlocks are a bit difficult to hold on to. I've adapted my technique to hold them like this because it's a little bit more comfortable, even with a regular, where's that tensioner? Even with a regular pry bar. Whoops. It's a little better rather than this, cranking your wrist and trying to get in there. So, you know, for anyone who is currently using bottom of keyway and maybe struggling, you might be using something like this, the old twisted steel, piece of steel stuck in there in the bottom, and that probably works. For this one, I mean, it's pretty flat bitting, so I imagine a short hook would work. But you see right away, that tensioner takes up all the space in the keyway there. You can't pick off the bottom. So you have to lever off of the tensioner itself, which can be tricky, trying to get your pick in, and right away, that might not be visible there, but right away the shank of the pick is lifting pin 1 and probably pin 2, just trying to access there. I'm trying to get under pin 4 and I'm almost overlifting pin 1. So that's one of the main advantages of top keyway, is that it opens up the keyway so that you can get your tools in there without oversetting other pins. And right off, I think I already overset pins there. Let's see. 1 springy, 2 springy, 3 springy, 4 is binding. There. Did you hear that click? So with that click, there was a little bit of rotation in the plug, and I felt the tensioner give way clockwise, just ever so slightly. Let's go back. 1 is springy, 2 is binding. There, it's springy now. Didn't hear the click, but I did feel it in the tensioner. go back to 1. 1 is springy. 2 springy. 3 is binding. Got a click there, and I felt the plug turn. Felt the tensioner give way again. And 1 is binding. There we go, and it's open. Now you can see how much that plug moves around in the body. That can work against you sometimes, because while you're trying to rotate the plug can be shifting side to side in the lock body and causing pins to drop. So you can see how much play is in there. Now, let's go back to TOK. Right away, ton of room to work with. You can pick off the bottom of the keyway there and angle the pick around this bottom warding and past this top shoulder here. But you can see a short hook will work, but I can get a medium hook in there, so why not? Where'd my other hook go? Like that one. I'd call that a medium. Even a deep. Where is, like this, a little bit more depth there. And if you've got some funky bitting with some low cuts or some low lifts or zero lifts, here comes 4's binding. Had a click, little shift in the plug, felt it in the tensioner. One is springy, 2's binding. Or is it? No, 3 is binding. So I think last time when I was picking bottom of the keyway, I think the binding was 4, 2, 3, 1. And this time it's 4, 3. Probably because of all the play around the plug, and things are binding differently than they were before. Yeah, 2 is binding now, so 4, 3. Had a click there. But more importantly, I felt the plug turn, and 1 is binding. There, and it's open. Another thing that can happen with bottom of keyway, so you can see that right underneath this warding, you can see the inside shoulder of the cylinder wall, just under the corner of the tensioner there. It's kind of in shadow. I can't get any closer because the camera won't focus. But sometimes what can happen is the tensioner can rub against the bottom of the cylinder, and that robs you of feedback. It can also bind up the core. And what will happen is none of the pins will bind. So if you find you're in a situation where everything is springy and you can't figure out what's going on, adjust the position of your tensioner and see if that makes a difference. Yeah. I think that's all I've got to say about this. The same points that I just made for this lock apply to really many of the 40 mil or 50 mil or 30 millimeter brass pad locks. I'll be making videos on a whole lot more pretty soon. So anyway, that's the Brinks 40 mil, full of standard pins. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, anything at all, put it in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.